Now it's time to take a look at the Paladin class in Classic WoW, specifically related to Classic WoW hardcore servers. This is where it starts splitting the factions, as Alliance has access to Paladins, while the Horde has access to Shamans. So already, by talking about Paladins, I am excluding probably half the player base, as it's a class that is not really relevant for the Horde side. But either way, today we're talking about the Paladin. Throughout this video, I will go over what abilities the Paladin has access to, which are relevant for hardcore, talk about the pros and cons of the class itself, who it's for, who it might not be for, and at the end we will also give it a rating, as usual, based on solo gameplay, group gameplay, and survival. Basically, an overall rating for the class based on hardcore gameplay. Hardcore servers in Classic WoW, shortly described and summarized, are servers where you only have one life, which means survival means pretty much everything. There's a sentence that I particularly think is very relevant to hardcore, and which also describes Paladins really well. Slow and steady wins the race. One huge downside of the Paladin class is a very obvious con in the pros and cons list is that it is a very slow class to play. You're basically an auto-attack machine with access to a couple of abilities outside of your auto-melee hits, but basically most of your abilities will burn through your mana very quickly, and you usually end up auto-melee hitting and using your mana for self-healing. That being said, as long as you are able to group up, Paladins they suddenly go from being a very slow class to being a very fast class, because they are probably the best support class in the game itself. Their blessings are insane, capable of increasing damage output, increasing mana regeneration rate, and even reducing threat. On top of that, they have protections for themselves and team members through Divine Shield and Blessing of Protection, and you even have healing abilities. For example, Paladins are incredible when paired with either a warrior or a rogue, classes that have really good damage output but lack that healing aspect, because this way you really play on each other's strength for incredible synergy. For the Paladin, let's talk about the abilities you have access to a little bit earlier, because to fully understand how good the Paladin can be for hardcore, I think it is important to talk about the importance of each ability that you have access to, so here we go. Blessing of Protection, allowing you to put yourself or a friendly target under a Blessing of Protection, protecting them from damage and allowing them to escape an otherwise very dangerous scenario. Divine Shield, the Paladin Bubble, allowing you to escape pretty much anything by bubbling and running away. This can be used in the open world or inside dungeons. It's basically a panic button or an oh shit button. The only thing is that it doesn't give you a guaranteed survival, it just gives you a head start, allowing you immunity to damage for a certain time period, which gives you additional time to figure out an escape plan, look through your bags for potions, or find an evade spot in a dungeon. A lot of hardcore deaths happen due to panic, and having this ability allows you to reduce that panic moment. Self-healing abilities like Flash of Light or Holy Light. Self-healing is incredibly important in hardcore where you only have one life. Any class with access to self-healing will have a huge advantage over a class with no self-healing. I feel like that's pretty obvious. You also have blessings, for example, Blessing of Might to increase your own and others' attack power. This is why Paladins are so good for dual leveling setups, because you get these blessings very early, buffing both of your damage outputs. It's also why they're so good inside dungeons, buffing every single member of the group. They can bless you with attack power, mana regen, threat reduction, but you also have access to other blessings like Blessing of Freedom and Blessing of Sacrifice. Lay on Hands, another oh shit button that you can use on yourself or a friendly target, instantly healing them for a massive amount. Hammer of Justice, a stun ability. This one can be used to stun a mob when it's about to cast a heavy hitting spell, or you can also use it to stun a mob. Then you can heal yourself while the mob is stunned, just as an example of why this ability can be useful. Summon Warhorse, giving you a free mount at level 40. Affording your mount at level 40 can actually be somewhat tricky, and many classes will need to not train all their spells in order to afford this mount as early as possible. As a Paladin, you get access to that level 40 mount for free. Since you get access to that mount for free, you can then afford to train all your spells while leveling, and not have to think too much about your personal wealth. All of these abilities combined should show you that the Paladin is pretty much built for survival, having access to that many abilities that are literally made to get out of dangerous scenarios, like Blessing of Freedom to escape slows, stuns to stun a mob, Bubble to literally become immune to damage, self-healing, a free mount. Paladins pretty much have it all. It is in fact a very good class to play for hardcore, and if I had to rank it for hardcore I probably would give it an S tier. All of this being said, you need to keep in mind that Paladins can be very slow to level up, especially if you play solo self-found, and while I do say that Paladins are a very good class to play, that auto-attack aspect and the class itself being very slow really needs to be stated. You also have the fact that you will most likely level up as Retribution, and you will most likely try to obtain Retribution gear while leveling to increase your throughput while leveling, but at max level you will pretty much be required to heal. Retribution Paladins are a meme, Protection Paladins are very subpar. The only really viable spec for you at max level is Holy, so you probably want to keep that in mind as well if you intend on raiding at max level. The Paladin class is a very good class choice for those of you who want to play a very safe class, and if you have the patience to auto-attack mobs. Also, make sure that if you are going to play this class at max level, you need to enjoy being a healer. On the other hand, if you prefer DPSing at max level, Paladins might not be the most optimal choice for you. With all of this being said, let's get into some ratings. For solo gameplay, Paladins are 5 out of 5 stars. Once again, I will put emphasis on this rating being purely based on hardcore servers, and they are slow and steady, so you need to be prepared for a slow but steady leveling experience. For group gameplay, Paladins are also 5 out of 5 stars. Being a hybrid class, you can effectively tank, heal or DPS alike, and throughout your leveling process you can fulfill any of these roles quite effectively. Additionally, you can help your group out by buffing them with blessings, allowing them to either generate less threat through your salvation blessing, or increasing their damage output through other blessings. Paladins are incredible to have in any group situation. Lastly, for survival, another 5 out of 5 stars. Having access to stuns, Blessing of Freedom, self-healing, Paladin Bubble, you name it, the Paladin has it. The only thing you really don't have, which would have made you even better, is a pet companion and a speed increase for your character, but you really don't even need those. A skilled Paladin can survive just about anything.